I actually knew the show was live before everybody else did, so that's it's progress. Maybe it's because it's Friday the 13th and everything's supposed to go like all haywire and stuff. But anyway, welcome to the Friday the 13th edition of Small Biz Breakdown. Friday the 13th, February the 13th. We'll see what happens. I have no idea what's going to happen. Might be a nice, calm, even handed, everybody agrees kind of conversation today. We'll see. Let's start with the farther out west we could get. Actually, if we were doing this yesterday, he would be like New York or something like that. But he's back. He's in Oregon. He is Leland. Therefore, he is Leland from Oregon. Hey, Leland.
It is good to be back, Brent, and I'm glad I didn't have to travel on Friday the 13th. That would have been a little nerve-wracking, a little more so nerve-wracking. You always get a little, plane shakes, and you're like, okay, don't fall out of the sky. But
you're one of those suspicious guys. I didn't know that.
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong eventually.
Okay, segueing over to the heartland, I guess. Where
more optimistic place.
the optimistic tones from Gary, Indiana. It would be our friend Pierre D.
Okay, I was not expecting that, but I appreciate the try.
It's like I have this mental block. I want to say Du Bois.
That's what's right. You're
but
right.
Sometimes I go the French Dubois thing, and I don't know, man.
That's okay. I appreciate that more. I'll tell you one thing I noticed real quickly. Sometimes people pronounce my name Perry, and I don't. That part boggles me.
Yeah,
I'm like, we have a state capital named Pierre, and you are still messing up with that. But
is that North Dakota or South Dakota? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's South Dakota. South Dakota.
Even it was giving me the thumbs down, so I guess that meant it was South. So
yeah, but that's okay. That just means that last name I'm in good stead with W.E.B. Du Bois, but I don't get royalties from using that. So
yeah, well, you can all. It's never too late to change your names. Hey. Let's traverse a little bit further east to that magical, mystical place we like to call Medina, where Madam Mike Drop resides. That would be Evelyn Taylor. If I could only get her on screen. There you go. Hey,
hi, everyone. I'm another one with a strange name. That's why I got married and changed it.
But what was your maiden name?
My maiden name was Stepanov. So I used to have to spell Ivana, then I had to spell Stepanov. So when I met a tailor, I snatched that up.
Yes, sir. Works for me. Especially since we do this show every week and I have to try to pronounce your name. So that's a good thing for me. Moving further to our east, to our nation's capital, where there's a person who always smiles no matter what goes on. And that's a pretty hard feat to do in our nation's capital. So let's bring on Mr. Smile himself, Shashi Belankanda.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be on this show with you all today. Happy Friday and excited to get started.
Well, we can't start. Uh-oh. We have a little bit of an echo problem there.
Oh.
You might want to mute yourself for the time being. All right. We can never, ever really start without visiting the vacation capital of the world. I got it right because he's doing weird gyrations. He is the one and only Ramon Ray.
What's up, fam? Brent, good to be here. Leland, good to be here. Pierre, good to be here. Ivana, good to see you. And Shashi, who just went away, good to be here. I thought y'all were going to talk about Pierre's name for an hour. Wasn't sure I'd get on the show today. Glad I could be here. Wonderful, everybody. Welcome to Small Business Breakdown.
Well, before we get really rolling, you and Leland met up in New York for a conference. Tell us a little bit about it, either one of you or both.
Leland, I'll give you the mic, and then I'll go after you, brother, if you like, please.
Yeah, Sweet Connect 2026 in New York. It's a much smaller gathering than the Sweet World. I didn't know what I was going to be stepping into, and my last one was like the 10,000 people amphitheater, and it was kind of refreshing to where it's just a smaller crowd of people. The news was really nice. They were correct me if I was wrong, Ramon, but kind of announcing the releases of some of the features and kind of showing how they work, all the features that they kind of announced at Sweet World, and so it was nice. It was chill, and I got a couple of interviews, so I got to edit them out. And so, if you're interested, I got Evan Goldberg, Craig Dubitsky from Happy, and Brad Kleinberg from Crystal Orama. So
Nice.
those are coming down the pike. But Ramon, your take on it.
First of all, of course, it was good to see you there. Always good to hang out with friends. And a few things that came to the fore for me. One, Evan Goldberg, it's always good just to see him, a gentleman, co-founder, I think it is, who of NetSuite for back like 20 plus years. Brent knows him. And so just always good to see founder-led companies, who have that passion for it and still keep going. That's one. As Leland referred to, seeing the CEO of Happy. I wasn't familiar with Happy, with lowercase h, which is a coffee company. And Craig Dubitsky, just what a great session we had about mental health and mindset. And I shared some of my own struggles with mental health, with depression and self-harm thoughts. I'll say that word a little more gently, but we went kind of deep, just for briefly, but we talked frankly about these human things that bring us together with Craig. And then I think, again, for those who don't know Oracle NetSuite, most of you do, but our audience, ERP, you have inventory, logistics, and supply chain, and products and services connecting to Walmart, and people, and sales, and discounts, and all those things is what Oracle NetSuite is in. So just good to be there and talk to the more enterprise side of companies. I was at a table just randomly talking to people, and there was a lady there. Hey, I'm in a hospital. I'm in the accounting division of our hospital. We use Oracle NetSuite. So I always love asking people, what do you do? Why are you at this conference? And just getting those tidbits. So that was my few takeaways as being there. And again, last thing I'll say, because we talk about AI quite a bit on this show, it's interesting when you can not just read the headlines of CNBC or whatever things it is, but, AI in action, that there's the AI, there's the consumer prompts and all that we all use. There's the enterprise side, Claude, OpenAI, and these companies doing it. But you see Oracle NetSuite, Ask Oracle, but it's their internal, as it were. And again, y'all, those of you who know this better can help me with here, but their internal kind of AI, where that's also, which we don't see the part of AI that enterprise companies are doing, not OpenAI, something you don't see, but it's the embedded AI built into products that they're building their own agents they're doing things with. So that was my sixth sense from that experience.
And just to piggyback a little bit off of what he was saying, a lot of the flack that they've gotten over the years is that they're not pushing out AI quickly. But when I sat down with Evan, he's like, we want to do it right. We want to make sure that what we're going to give you is going to be accurate. It's going to not hallucinate. It's not going to screw up your business in any way, shape, or form. When it comes out, it's going to come out right, and it's going to help you, and it's going to alleviate a lot of the issues and problems that you have. And I appreciate that. It's not like we're hopping on the bandwagon and we're just going to push something out that may or may not help you. We're going to do it right. We're going to put it out, and it will help your business. And I appreciate it.
Did they say, Leland, they're having another version for companies that want a cheaper version that does hallucinate, that you can get like a discount if you want bad numbers to show up? I don't know. I think Brent probably has that on his pre-embargoed press release or something. I'm just joking. Good job, Leland.
Wow. These, you don't make segueing easy there, Ramon. With that kind of stuff. Anyway, but it is easy to segue this because you guys know what's coming. It's another week. Now, there was some pretty good news. I think the jobs number was about double the expectations. I think it was about 60,000 were expected, and I think around 130. I got to stop right in the middle of my thought and say hello to our favorite friend, Amber Donald. Hey, Amber. And while we're at it, let's say a quick hello to Elias Lopez. Okay. Hey, first timer. Glad to see you. All right, so job numbers were expected around 60,000 job in new jobs, and I think it was around 130,000. So there was a little bit of even if it ain't buying the number, I can tell. All right, hey, that's not my number. That's coming from our government. You take it or leave it. And then just a couple of hours ago, the latest CPI came out, and it was a little below what they were expecting. I think they were expecting it at around 2.7, and it came in at, I think, around 2.7. It came in, and it was expected to be 2.8 or 9. Anyway, it was slightly lower increase than they were expecting. So technically, those two things are good. They sound good on the surface, but are they good for you this week? I'm going directly to Even to find out what was going on. As I said the job number, you immediately just did this. What's going on, Even?
Well, if you were, and I encourage all you folks to do that, especially our folks who are watching, head over to the BLS.gov, take a look at that number. I took a picture of it on my phone, and if you read really carefully, or if you look at the chart, you're going to see a little red square, and then you're going to see this huge gray band. And that gray band is a statistical error. That says that we are 90% confident that number is going to land inside this gray band, which is ginormous. And also, I'm not going to get, because I'm not even an expert in how they collect this data. So when they report this number, it's like they're asking people, but then like months later, we get the real number. And that's why I'm taking that number with a grain of salt, because the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and past behavior shows that they have, what is that called? Reported, like the actual reporting has always been down.
Yeah.
So do I want it to be that number? Most certainly I do. But if I had to place money on it, I would say that it's going to be lower.
All right. Who wants to go next, Ramon?
I just want.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Pierre.
go ahead. I was going to say.
Pierre.
I was going to say I like even as a note about the confidence band. That's always, I think every time when people report numbers, there's always this argument of what the range of a number can be. And if it's very, very wide, sometimes that impacts the story that you're giving out. You're saying that it may be this estimate, but you have such a wide band that now it's like, well, how well are we really, how confident are we in that estimate that we're giving, or the range of numbers that it can be? And that can impact the story as well. So kudos for that.
Yeah, my 2 cents on that, Pierre, and even I think week to week, I think we're doing fine. I think week to week, headlines be what it may. Jobs are, I believe the report jobs are in there. So I think that for me, my own place is fine. So if I'm fine, that means everybody else must be fine. That's one said jokingly. But honestly, I think the headlines seem to be that things are moving along relatively well. I think the big thing, which I don't think we're going to get into, of course, though, is just the politics. That I think, meaning the social politics, the all the things that are going on. I'll just mention ICE or all those things. That's, I think, the big news of the day. But politically, economically, I think America's moving along as best as it could be. But we don't hear things about debt much anymore and things until there's an election or it's an opposing party. So I think overall, though, I'm fine. And I think those around me are fine. That's my 2 cents. But I will tag Leland.
Awesome. So I look at it from the small business perspective, and those numbers are, they're not phenomenal. They're not like mind blowing, but they're not to the point to where panic should be setting in or anything like that. And so I think we're like in that middle gray area of just, we're comfortable. And that's a good place to be, because it's not that pressure of, well, the nation is expanding, the economy is just booming and going like gangbusters. And now you have to like adjust, to match the needs of a rapidly growing economy. But it's not to the point to where you have to worry about your next meal, or if you're going to go out of business. It's that nice kind of comfortable hammock, sitting back and just maintaining status quo. It's a good place to be in sometimes. And I like hearing that kind of news where small businesses can just carry on and not have to worry one way or the other. So if you're a small business and you're listening to this, just put your nose to the grindstone and just continue on.
Who's next? I think we got 2 to go.
No, I think it's just Shashi.
It's Shashi. Okay, Shashi.
Do you guys still hear an echo?
No, we haven't heard it.
You're good. You're good to go.
We're good.
Okay, good. Then it must have been the placement of my speakers. I just want to turn this conversation a little bit, Ramon, in my nice soft way. just like people don't understand AI, right? Like, for example, the companies are not doing a good job explaining what the investment on AI is and why it matters long term. Because most stock investors have heard of NVIDIA because for 20 years we know NVIDIA graphics card is inside our computer. So NVIDIA stock relatively does well. But companies like Cisco, they have the backbone of the infrastructure, but still the common man doesn't know about what it means. So bringing the conversation back to the employment numbers and the economy, Ivana said it right. Like, who goes to the Bureau of Labor and tries to verify the statistics? Nobody, right? They are going to listen not even to the local one. They're listening to a TikTok influencer talk about how like having the latest protein drink for $10 is really good. And if they can afford it, the economy is really good. Now, what that means for small businesses is what Ramon said. Like, if you're doing pretty well, hey, just go do what you want and forget about all the noise that's happening outside. If you're not doing well, watch this show and get some tips.
Ooh, that sounds like it could be a commercial. Sounds pretty good. Sounds good to me. Okay, I'll add this into the mix. I think I am ready to add this into the mix. All right, the same. So we're all just going on with this. We just talked about some. Now, this is not coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is, coming from some reporting and from, I think, the New York Fed. Americans with higher incomes are starting to fall behind on payments. Not good, folks. Let's see. What do we have? A couple of graphs here. This is a pretty telling graph. This is the different kinds of the delinquencies over the last 20 years or so. 2000, going back to, actually looks like it's going back to 2000. So it's going back about 25, 26 years. Now, we're all probably familiar with why that big, huge uptick in 2008 or thereabouts. That's when the whole financial world was collapsing. 2008, 2009. So everybody fell behind in debt, and all 120-day delinquency. That's a long ways behind when you're talking about your mortgage payments, your car payments, your credit card payments, your school loans. So that's off and unto itself. That's ridiculously huge. But we're pretty much at the heights since that whole thing came around. We're kind of creeping up to the heights when you look at 2025, and that delinquency number is, I guess, the pandemic. So we have the pandemic in 2020-ish. We have the whole financial meltdown, and you see whenever we have these things, credit or delinquencies go crazy. Now, technically, we're not in that right now. We just got past the pandemic. We haven't seen anything like that prime mortgage, subprime mortgage crap stuff going on. But yet and still, even with these, some not negative numbers, we're spending a lot of money on credit, on all sorts of things. Here's a second one here. Share of loans that are at least 30 days delinquent by type. Student loans, man. I mean, poor Generation Z or whatever they call themselves, they're getting it worse than any generation I've seen in a while, because they can't afford to buy anything, and everything they buy, they have to buy it on credit. That's not a good combination. So I wonder what those folks would say if we asked them how they're doing. But student loans, credit card, mortgage, when they can get a mortgage, everything is kind of spiking. So that means whatever they're buying on credit cards, and they can't afford to keep up with the credit card payments. How does this all end for the U.S. economy when that kind of thing is taking place right now? And we also have, as Ivana pointed out, I think it was last week, consumer confidence is already like tanked. So how do we justify, or how do we kind of, I guess, equate what's going on with a little slightly better than expected inflation, double the job expectations? Those are some what we would consider to be positive kind of things, or signals or triggers, whatever you want to call them. And then you see that, and these numbers are pretty I mean, we're talking historically. We're talking about pandemic and complete meltdown of the economy, the world economy. How do we justify feeling positive about our trajectory when you have those numbers out there?
I think it's like AI. We're all using it. We all love it. We all believe in it. But Mr. Dave Sherman, I believe, whoever the guy was who wrote Matt Sherman wrote the long post that millions of people watched. There's a problem with this. Whatever the post was, y'all know what I'm talking about, I hope. Meaning, but yet there may be a big explosion, a big problem happening. So what I'm trying to say in my convoluted way, can never say it as smart as pithy as Shashi does, but is that we have credit card, we have money in the U.S. context. There is a big middle class, right? Unlike in many other countries of the world, there's a big middle class, and people are moving along, sliding their credit cards. Now you can use your credit card on turnstiles. Imagine that. Before you couldn't use it easily on turnstiles. You'd have to jump, have the money, or beg, as an example. So my point being, I hope we're not like the proverbial Rome and America's headed for a doomsday in the next 20 years, 30 years. But seeing this chart, Brent, all I can think of is Ramon's fine today, but who knows what's going to happen. So it doesn't say anything, but I'll tag, I see even a smile. I'll tag you even. I'd love to know your thoughts on that. So it's one of those things where I think that nobody knows, but it is something warily like my boat's okay. I do see the sharks, but we're okay. The storm is there, but I hope we get to it. But man, that could be your last word. So it's something that's why we're here talking about it. Even, what do you think?
So many thoughts, but I'm going to try to get short. As you guys know, I've been doing in-depth interviews with my community around what's working. That is the question I get asked about 5 times a day. Even though what's working, this used to work, it doesn't work, blah, 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 right? All the marketing-y things. But I also asked in my survey if people felt optimistic, pessimistic, or about the same. And I have a slightly larger optimistic group. So when I'm interviewing folks, I'm like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling optimistic, pessimistic, or about the same? And I've had a handful of people tell me optimistic. And of those people who were feeling optimistic, I think there's something really telling there, because I'm starting to see a pattern. And that pattern is they've had a lot of failures to this point. That means that they have gone through the failure process and the learning process about their business. I'm thinking about one respondent in particular. He said, over the last 20 years, I've lost more than $500,000, but
Damn.
Last year was the best year I've had, and 2026 is gonna 10x. And I said, why is that happening for you? And he said, I have learned. I have created, I call them guidelines. I think he called them, I forget what he called them, theories. I forget what he called. He had a name for it. And now he knows, and guess what it is? He knows exactly who his ideal customer/investor target is. He knows exactly what their pains are. He's went through a list of a handful of things. So he's just a great example. I've heard this type of a message. I'm doing better. I'm optimistic because I'm in a very particular niche, and this niche is going to do great. So kind of, Ramon, to your point, they're not looking at the world around them. They're very much looking at themselves as small business owners. And these are folks who are probably in the, let's call it 10 million and under, who have paid their dues, who may not talk so much about the failures that they've experienced along the way. But it's those failures and that learning that has them say that they are feeling optimistic today.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So that survey is really starting to reveal some interesting nuggets, huh?
I don't have a lot of responses because it does take a few minutes to go through it. I'm asking people to vent and rant. It is completely anonymous, right? Because I want you to share what's really happening. Not everyone is as open as Ramon, right? There are a couple responses who are optimistic because of the government. So they're right there with you, Ramon. They feel that the policies the government is putting forth are just fantastic, and they're totally happy about that. And I'd say twice as many responses that are the opposite of that. Yes, the government sucks, but I persevere. And let's always remember, small business owners are a generally optimistic demographic because they see themselves as I am in control of my future and my outcome.
Anybody
I
else?
have to tag someone.
No, anybody can jump in.
Shashi, you've been quiet.
No, I was fascinated. I was fascinated by your survey and the results you're getting. Sometimes anecdotal, but that's very useful. Now, what people don't understand is they have a credit card and the country has a credit card. The country is way overspent. Now, there we can selfishly think like, hey, that's not my problem. I'm just managing my credit. But it is a problem, if not for us, for the next few generations. Now, if you leave it in the politicians' hands, they're going to do whatever is short term to get them over every 2 years to the elections. But like the Fed is supposed to take care of that to make sure it doesn't go beyond a point where it happened in India in the 90s. The country was going to go bankrupt. Now, very quickly they put in some measures in place, like opening up the economy, allowing foreign investment. So somebody's got to think, it's not me. Somebody's got to think of some idea to make it. It's going to be painful. It's not going to be easy because it means that prices may go up or taxes may go up. It's happening in our local governments, right? Like property taxes are going up because the governments they're already maxed out of their credit cards. So that's interesting. For small businesses, I think the advice that you give, Ivana, is save for a rainy day. Anything can happen beyond your control. Right?
I'd say for a monsoon or, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I think what even Shashi point out is that I agree that entrepreneurs tend to be this positive outlook, and they have specialized on their niche. But I think to the first image that you brought up, Brent, I think it also means that you need to be realistic about what the risk is. Like everyone always talked about, I want to go to the most affluent customers I want for my product or service, so that way I could sustain. And I think that part is important. But at the same time, you have to see it as a resource where it's not endless, right? So the challenge is, I think the challenge for entrepreneurs is being that optimistic, but understanding what risks are there in terms of, or maybe in terms of runway, just how long of a runway you have. I think long term, I think Sashi's right at a certain level. I think there has to be something much larger that has to happen in the economy to address a lot of these things in terms of employment, consumer pricing, and so forth. It's going to take a large scale event to happen. And I don't know if it necessarily has to be dark. Go back and look at World War II. World War II was a big deal. But when the U.S. came out, when it ended, when the U.S. came out of it, you had soldiers coming home where people pent up demand for automobiles because no one could buy a car for 3 years. And
Houses.
Pent up demand for housing.
Yep.
So there's probably something on the horizon that I think as entrepreneurs and everyone else, from an economic standpoint, we just need to keep our ear open to. And it's probably going to be something that large scale. I don't want to imply that there has to be a war or something necessarily that bad, but some sort of alternative will come up where there will be an opportunity where people might be a little calmer, and it will allow people to spend maybe a little bit more robustly with a little bit more joy, rather than just something that right now, like we have segments that can spend and segments that can't.
Being a bit more calmer. That would be really great, man. It would be great. Don't see that happen in the next 3 years at least. But we'll play by ear.
One thing
go ahead.
One thing that I noticed about your chart is that there was a huge dip in 2020, pandemic, and now you're starting to see the numbers, and they're a little bit higher than what they were before 2020, but I do kind of think that there's a little bit of correction in like what's, it's fixing itself after the pandemic. And one of those fixes, and I have student loans, student loan repayment is started back up. Now I kept paying my loan, even though they said you don't have to. You can just skip payments, but I kept that into my budget, into my habit, and as a result, I'm now way ahead of my payment,
Right.
and I have $0 payments right now, so I don't have to worry about it if I lose my job. Money's gone. I don't have to worry about it. But I think that there's a lot of people out there who didn't build that into their budget, and they got used to the idea of not having to pay student loans. I do wish that there was a little bit more regulation on student loans going out. Like my brother, he got a history degree, and he took out a lot of student loans on a history degree.
Nice.
It's really hard to find a job in history, and basically the only avenue is be a teacher. And he tried that, didn't work. He's working at Safeway now, trying to pay back student loans. And I do wish that there was a little bit of like,
Yes, that's tough.
what's your plan with your English degree? What's your plan with your history degree? What's your plan with this very specialized degree that only has maybe 5-10 people in the whole nation who actually utilize it outside of teaching? It would be nice for, like I got family who's been affected by this. So I understand what's, a little bit of post-pandemic correction of credit. So that's my take when I see that chart.
By the way,
Can I say
Ramon,
something?
I just want to say, Ramon really likes the idea of what you did there. You just had to put that up there. All right, sorry about that, Shashi.
Yeah. So you brought a very important point, Leland. Like, why should undergraduate and graduate studies be so expensive? We are losing the race in the world where governments are subsidizing people who are going to college, learning new skills across the board, not necessarily just. Yeah. Now, imagine a day when already there is a move to say, like, should we go to college or not? I mean, statistics say, like, if you go to college, you definitely get a better salary than if you don't go to college. Of course, that's not true for the trades where you do apprenticeship and gain skills and you also get a good salary, right? So either of these two. So I think it's yes, that has to change. Number one, I love the way that you said you kept paying, because once you've taken a loan, you got to pay it back. There's no free money. So I'm glad you kept at it, saying, hey, one day, like instead of paying a huge amount, I'm going to pay just a little bit every time. That was good. But what do you all think of, encouraging more people to be specialized in educating and also give liberal arts some importance? That's
Shashi,
really
that day is
important in
here.
the AI age.
Yeah, no, that day is here. I mean, Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs and others, he's not alone. He's been championing for years that college is not a must. And I think he's right. I mean, it depends on where you're from. I happened in my church, there's a lot of Indians from India and other immigrants, for example. I know that for them, that's important. Your mother and father came here, didn't know a lick of English, and worked hard, cleaned floors, busted their behind. I get it. Get a college degree. That's the best they know. Get a good paying job in this new country, America. But I think as we know today, the second generation, yeah, if you have education, that's important, Shashi, right? Education in some way, besides being a good person, good character, there's jobs out there. So I think that, to your point, college degrees, I think for the traditional person, I need to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a nurse. Those things, you still got to get your college degree. But why in the world Leland's brother or uncle, whoever it was, got a stupid history major? I don't know. Obviously, he didn't talk to Leland enough. Sorry. Even the two. Oh, Pierre, too. Sorry. Okay. I think I'm just going to be fired from this show, Brent.
It's, when it came down to my brother, he originally was going for a chemistry degree. He hit and it would have paid well. He would be like rich right now if he would have kept that, but he found it hard. He found it too difficult, and he switched to history. And now, unfortunately, his life is a little bit harder in another way. So I'm all for advocating for multiple forms, as long as it's something that can pay out. Like I have a nephew, and he's like, oh, I'm kind of thinking about going into computer science. And I'm like, hold up on that. Like, Have you thought of computer engineering? Now, computer science, AI, I mean, it is taking over the program. You still need some programmers to do it, but a lot of those jobs are being taken up by AI. The internships, the entry level jobs, and it's going to be hard to be able to get into the computer science route. Have you thought of computer engineering? That's not necessarily something that's been taken over by AI, and you need someone to do it. And so it's pushing the younger generation, the next generation, into fields. It's like, well, instead of, if you don't want to do college, hey, learn how to plumb, learn how to do electrician, be an electrician. I'm all for that route, and maybe dissuading. It's like, no, you don't need a history degree. I mean, if you want to teach and you love teaching, go for it. But if you want to be a historian in a stuffy museum, oh, you got a long wait before you can do that.
Wow. All right, but I think we do add a little perspective here. Back when we were going to college, let's put it like this: the price of college is exponentially, it feels, surpassed the rate of increase of any other thing around. So when we were going to college, it was actually affordable. I mean, for the most part, you weren't paying $80,000 a semester to go to a half-rate college. I mean, we don't even want to know what's going on at like Harvard or Yale or Stanford or any of those places. So at least there was a time where it made financial sense that you go to school for 4 years and you were on track for a pretty nicely paying job.
Absolutely.
That's just not the case anymore. A lot of people don't need to go to college to make a lot of money. And so I think some of the stuff that we were brought up with is now fairy tale status, is not going to happen, or is not going to happen in the foreseeable future. I mean, I was fortunate enough, I had a full ride to school, but even if I didn't have that, my parents probably couldn't afford to send me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could say that to the average person. Matter of fact, I'll just leave this last bullet point from this survey. It said the average client seeking help from credit counseling agencies across the country now makes about $70,000 a year, with unsecured debt, basically meaning credit card, levels approaching $35,000. That's half what they make a year. It used to be before the pandemic. The typical client enrolled in counseling made about $40,000 a year and carried $10,000 in unsecured debt. So it went from a quarter of their income to a half of their income. That's not the kids. These are people that are moving forward in life. What's going to happen to them kids?
Yeah, I have some advice for Leland. Not to give any advice for kids, and I'll tell you why. You and I don't know which jobs are going to come up, because my theory is that communication jobs will be the most wanted because AI needs storytelling, right? And the communicators are also going to be experts at coding, so they're going to interact with. That's just a theory. I am not going to tell anybody to do communications either.
You heard it here first, sir. Shashi is telling you what to do again.
But the number of people who have changed jobs, many of them don't even do what they went to college for.
Mhm.
Because life teaches them a lot. So I don't have an answer for that.
How many of us went to school for one thing and are doing something completely different now? I mean, I know I am.
Yeah, I would say a little bit, but I think part of that unpacking, and this is where I kind of struggle a little bit with the whole like not going to school thing. Part of the benefit of going to college is learning not just skills for one particular thing that you want to do, but also some other pieces that also make you better in terms of critical thinking, in terms of how you deal with situations. I think to Shashi's point, being I don't want to say just marketable, but also just in terms of how to assess, how to kind of adjust your sales a little bit.
Like what, Pierre? Give me an example. Give me an example of a college course that helped with sales.
Like for example, if like for me when I did my MBA,
whoa! You just said MBA.
Yeah,
talking about bachelor's 4 year. I'm sorry, because MBA is a different category, in my humble opinion.
Okay, but I would say, well, let me back up and let me do engineering for a second. I did mechanical engineering, And a lot of things that you learn in mechanical engineering, there's thermodynamics, there's fluid mechanics, and so forth. But I was learning, I bet in my young mind, I was learning this because I want to be an automotive engineer. But there were other things I learned in bits and pieces that I learned how to unpack when I got to Ford. Things in terms of how you organize, things in terms of the humanities. Some of the humanity courses can help you in some ways in not just having a different point of view, but also maybe unpacking how to approach things. For AI, for example, there's a whole discussion about reasoning. Reasoning is part of philosophy. So I'm not saying someone with a philosophy degree can go out and run and be a coder, but they could probably add on maybe a few skills for programming and probably work in their philosophy education that way. All I'm saying is that I think I'm not suggesting go to school and just spend it and burn it and then feel like you're being broke for the rest of your life. I do think when someone decides not to go to college, they need to unpack all these other pieces that are just as important in terms of career success and making transitions. And I think that's the part that I think as a nation we need to have a conversation with, because to be honest with you, it's almost like a pendulum. You need to be somewhere where you can learn, but at the same time, you don't want to be someplace where no one is discussing anything in terms of domain knowledge, in terms of critical thinking skills that might help you to what Sashi said, be able to kind of to be a little ready for what may be coming down the pike.
Not bad. I think you're right. I get your point, Pierre. I guess, it depends on the child, depends on the person too. Every kid has different education, different this, that, and the other background. So I hear you. I just think I'm so jaundiced thinking most college, and again, it's been so long. I'm not a college expert. It just seems the headlines like it's a bunch of phooey. But to your point, if you go to a good school and the critical thinking, I hear you on that.
I'm going to put an asterisk on what I said. This isn't an easy thing to answer because I think there's so many.
Well, it's easy for me, not for you, maybe.
Okay, yeah, okay. So it's not. So the rest of us not that easy. That's okay.
Well, let's go around the horn, so to speak. Given what we all know now, what we all experienced over our years, would you go back if you had to go back and do it again? Would you go to school? Would you go to college, or would you forego college and do the trade thing? So each of you give a response.
Okay.
I would go back to college if I won the lottery today, because
If you
what I
won the
learned
lottery today, wait a minute, you're bringing in a whole other dynamic, man.
because of expense, right? Because of expense. Because to Pierre's point, there's so much to not only learn, but also to see how the world is thinking. And it doesn't matter whether you go to Ivy League or to the local community college, you're bound to get some life skills that, especially if you're a lifelong learner like Ramon is. So,
all right. So
yes, I would go back.
You go back for 4 years and maybe have to accrue $100,000 in debt.
Hopefully, my parents would have saved enough money to afford that.
That's part of the equation, though. I mean, that's part of the, especially for these kids. So, Ivana, would you do it all over again or do it differently?
Well, that depends on what people think the purpose of college is. I am a European person. I come from an old line of very bougie European people. I'll just say that. And to us, I was raised that college is not a trade. You go to college to learn to think. You go to college to become a well-rounded person. And the intention is that every field of study is important. And I think, and yes, you're going to find other things to do with that thing, right? So I did not go to college to learn a trade. It's just so ironic that I actually was registered originally for chemical engineering. Scary.
Wow, really?
Very, very scary. And then on the day that I went to actually register for classes with all the chemical engineering people, I looked at my mom and I said, I don't think this is a thing. And she goes, well, we got the booklet here. Let's start flipping through so you can pick your major. And my last name started with an S. And when they got to call me in, I was at marketing and advertising. And I'm like, I think this sounds good. It's technical enough. It's creative enough. I think I can do this thing. And so and I never changed. That is just a fluke. That is just a fluke. But if I were to go to learn a trade, and what I would tell marketing people today is do not spend, it's actually more than $100,000. My son went for pharmacy only 4 years. It was $180,000 that I had saved up. So all these years of working, I was saving towards that, and he has no debt.
Wow.
That was a goal for us. That was a sacrifice for me. But I wouldn't have done it. Here's the other thing. I wouldn't have done it if he were not so intent and focused on that area. He was like, from the time he was in 8th, 9th grade, he was like, I want to do pharmacy. I want to do pharmacy. Thank the Lord he didn't decide to get his PharmD, because that would have been another $60K.
What if it had been a degree like he's very passionate about liberal arts?
I am a big fan right now because I think Shashi brought it up or whatever. Lately, I have been telling people to study liberal arts. We need more critical thinkers. We need better communicators. This AI requires a lot of insight. And even in the article I shared with you guys in the chat by Ann Handley, and I'm noticing this with a lot of content I see about AI, and it's very concrete, and everyone's leaning on statistics and data. There's nothing wrong with that, because I just quoted some data earlier. Nothing wrong with that. But soul, my friends, the humanity and soul. 90% of the stuff I see on LinkedIn, I see this agentic writing thing. People whose content I know, love, and trust does not look the same.
Oh, wow.
And there's a whole, I follow this linguist that talks about, it's called the Austin Speech Act. And it is coming up when you see your AI saying things like, not this, but that. Yeah. You see that pattern everywhere. That is why that AI guy quit. They see that as a security issue because there are people having relationships with AI and killing themselves.
Let me ask you this, Ivana. Do you still know, like, and trust those people now that you see their stuff not being the same as it was before?
Oh my God, so interesting, right? Because this happened with someone that I follow and loved her content, and I read through a newsletter, and I'm like, oh my God, this is totally AI. I could tell it's totally AI because it's not her. It's the facts and the talking points are the same, but the soul is gone. Her voice is not really her voice.
So let me ask this to Ramon. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. Some of the things that both Ivana and Shashi were saying, and I think too, Pierre, there's something about the college experience that feeds the soul that would be very hard to go without, just in terms of moving forward and, with whatever you do. How important is that? Important enough to you to say, okay, I think that's a really relevant piece of information that's important enough for me to say, yeah, I think I should go to school? Or is it that, no, I don't really need to go to school to do that. I think my best opportunity is to go another path.
I love the question, Brenton, and no joke, all joking aside, I think it causes me to think deep of myself and my two kids. My son have a banjo, have a guitar, literally guitar, travel the world with a backpack, go to Indonesia. I'll come out $1 million. He's the James Bond type. Grant Cardone, that's just one name I know. The hustle, brass knuckles, whatever you call it, and I'll be a billionaire. I will buy that company, and I don't even know about real estate. That's his gift. That's just him. He's kind of taking after me-ish. Solo person, friendly with anybody. You'll be in the front of a cop car driving it, whatever example you give. My daughter, equally, I'm proud of her. Dad, I see what you're doing. I don't want that. I don't want entrepreneurship. Don't want to have papers on my desk. Don't want to have the IRS mailing me. Don't want to be on the phone all day. I want to talk to people. I want my boss to say, hey, hey, Leland, we need you to do these things today. Meaningful work. So my point, what I'm trying to say, Brent, I think what I'm hearing is that, and seeing it probably depends on who the person is. And for the average, in a good way, average, most people, let me go to this institution, learn something, because I don't even know what I want. Let me learn something, and let's try it. But I think God has made some of us I'm just a fight the box person, Brent. I don't like being told what to do. I do not like instructions. I don't even like to read instructions when I get the most complicated things. I'd rather break the freaking thing. And that's just me. So I think that's probably the not the negativity, you know, but my slant of the world based on how I am. But to your point, Brent, yeah, if I was advising somebody, I'd probably say, listen, depending on who you are, you probably need to go to school. Or somebody else, I'd say no. Go to the YMCA, see who you meet. You may meet a financier, work for him or her for a year, and become a billionaire that way. Go figure. But that's just my style.
Yeah.
There's one thing I want to add. Like, I don't think enough people know the power of compounding. And what that means is if you start with $50 a month when your kid is born, you don't have to worry about their college tuition at all.
Right.
But not enough people do that. Like, I've had so many conversations with new immigrants who are Uber drivers, and I tell them, hey, you know what? This is what you need to do. Save $50 from whatever amount you make. And that's what we did. So it's a little bit more so that you suddenly are not looking at a huge amount, if that makes sense. And most of it, I think, is 5 to 9 tax-free, and you get a lot of benefits.
I think it also is about the quality of information you get. And I think it also helps to prevent misunderstandings. When I'm not saying that every discussion has to be within the classroom, but one of the benefits of that is that you kind of get to understand why things are referenced in a way that outside of that, people just don't explain very well. And this is also gets into when we talk about misinformation. There's a really good one for small business where people have kept saying things like, there was one the other day I had in Clubhouse that drove me nuts. It's the idea that someone says, well, you get an EIN number and then you get this, your incorporation, then you form a trust. The problem with that is you're taking very big facts and applying them for something that those things were not designed for. If you had it in the context of an environment, a school environment, you can kind of understand why you don't go down that route. There's just, it's if I had to go back and be a student again, I probably would still be interested in engineering, but I probably would have been pushing more I wanted to be a novelist, actually. I probably would have looked at the creative degrees a little bit more. The reason why I didn't was because I thought between engineering and creative writing, the engineering was much harder. Therefore, I need to take advantage of this while I was in school. Now, with so many things with YouTube, so many ways of creating content, you have an opportunity as an author to write in a way that is not like, hey, I'm just going to put my glasses on, have the typewriter and type and hope and dream that someday I'll be the next Stephen King or the next Walter Mosley, basically. Mm-hmm. And so you need to have at least a little. I think again, you need to be in a place where you can have some experiences, at least learn from other people what those experiences are and why those things are being discussed and debated. I think that's extremely important, particularly when you're young, because to Sashi's point, you can compound that information and make better decisions along.
But Pierre, I think to the point I made earlier, and I thought Shashi was going to comment, and he just wrote over my whole comment, didn't say anything about it. It's fine though. That the point I'm making, Pierre, that what you just said is that that goes back to who the individual is. What you just said, Pierre, I saw the nod, the from Shashi, the nod from Ivana. Pierre, I zoned out, just as a metaphor, but literally, like, it was so deep. I get it. I'm not that type of student, like compound and what we're still seeing, and I'm gonna be the next. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? So I think that goes back as we're diving, because I think it's a good discussion as we talk to others. It really depends on the type of person you are. I'm not that. Even when I'm on Clubhouse a lot, people say, Ramon, before you speak, what zone do you know? What's your mindset like? What do you get into? I don't know. I just do it. But some people have their routine. They lighting candles and doing yoga mats.
Ramon, here's the thing, though. Sometimes people are told that, hey, you're a math person, you're a creative person, what have you. Not you personally. Just this is what people are telling you. Sometimes you need people drawing other things out of you.
I agree.
To tie that together. I had no interest in computers. No interest really in marketing when I did my MBA, but Ann Johnston, who was at Georgia Tech at the time, She pulled me aside and said, Pierre, given your background in Ford, given your background, and I was transferring in graduate school, which I'd say transfer like, because you really don't transfer. But I was changing graduate schools, and then I wanted to do finance, I wanted to do venture capital. But she told me, she said, I had people tell me, no, your background really is tied to marketing. I was like, well, why are you trying to get me into marketing? Do you tell me I can't do finance? What they were telling me was there was some alternative where my talents could be applied. And I think that's the part that people have to have around them to be successful. And I think sometimes you need that within a education environment.
Evolve and mature. None of us are who we are today, who we were years ago. Say with me, I would, this version of Ramon, I was not at 20, was not at 15. It just wasn't.
I think that there's also another.
Maybe we want that back.
Nah, you don't want that back. you don't trust me, Shashi. You don't want that back. Go ahead,
Leland.
Well, there's another element that no one's not, talked about a little bit, and it's also an element of where you are too, where you live, where you grow up. If I had the chance, I probably wouldn't necessarily go for computer science because, like, go to school for computer science, because a lot of the jobs where I would be working is a big city. And I didn't really think about that when I went into the degree. I don't like big cities. I like my little small town or another small town equivalent to it. And so I would probably go for something that would help me in the situation that I want to be in. And I want to be in a small town. So I'd probably go for a degree that would be a little bit more helpful. I may go like medical or something like that, be at the local hospital or something like to that. But it's like if you're a kid and you're growing up in a small town and all the trades are already like it's full, maybe you do go to college because there's nothing for you in this town. Or if you want to stay and work in the factory because that's where all your family is, even though you're a genius and college would be really great for you, you may be like, but I don't want to leave my family. I just want to work in the factory. I just want to be around my family. Yeah, I could become the next brilliant doctor, but I don't want to do that. I want to be around my family. And, it wouldn't sustain me to be able to go to a college and then come back to this, this small town with a big old pile of debt or something like that. So little element.
Damn. Fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it is.
We almost got through this without really talking about AI, but I'm going to end on this because I know Ivana loves little quizzes. So we've been talking about all the money that's going to a handful of companies and all that kind of stuff. So just yesterday, Anthropic raises $30 billion at a $380 billion valuation from the usual suspects. $380 billion valuation. Anybody know what their valuation was just last year?
13
billion.
How many?
I said 13. Leland said 50.
13 and 15?
50.
Oh, 13 and 50. Okay. What about Ivana? You got a guess?
No idea. I'll
40,
take
42 billion?
I'll say 20.
20. All right. Pierre?
13 and a half.
13 and a half, Pierre?
I don't even think it was, I would say barely 1.5 bill, if anything, maybe that and a Happy Meal thrown in. Outside of that, that's about as much as I could think of.
All right. You guys, I don't know. You guys may be thinking a little too much on this one. All right. So 2 years ago, it was 18.4 billion. Last year, 61. And that year from March 20, it hadn't even been a full year. It's gone from 61 billion to 300. That's more than a 6x. But if you go back 2 years, it's more than a 20x in valuation. Now, to just kind of make it a little easier to kind of see how that fits in, OpenAI 2 years ago was 86 billion. Now they're valued at what, 800 or something? I can't even see because that's little
10x,
slide.
yeah.
Let me. Okay. Wow, what did happen here? Why am I going the wrong way here? I don't know what just happened. Anyway, it's a 10x. There it is. So Anthropic is actually growing way faster than OpenAI is. Just all the money that's out there for.
Can I ask you a question, Brent?
Sure.
Did you finish your thought? I mean, we're going to say more on this, or
no? That was it.
Okay. Do you think that Anthropic and OpenAI are too big to fail and will never go out of business and fail? Or do you think there's a chance that indeed bankrupt, fail, whatever, or are they just too big that they're just going to be there forever? Not forever, but for the next 10, 20 years?
No, not hardly. They're not a guaranteed success at all, either of them.
Wow. Okay.
I worry about OpenAI more than Anthropic. I think Anthropic took some good steps for enterprise. We need to make money. We need to help enterprises put forward deployment and customize it. OpenAI, hey, here's a nice video tool.
Would they say it again? I didn't hear you, Sasha. Would they do again? Say it again.
A nice video tool.
No. How'd you say it? You said how they did it. I want to hear how they do it again.
You got to say the hey. That's what he's looking for.
Hey, here's a nice video tool.
You're right. No, you're right, Shashi. They were them, and I actually thought Cohere would be further along than what they are, but it seems like Anthropic is
a marketing department.
Anthropic is on a roll, and they're putting out stuff that does have the enterprise things. Because a lot of people are. I'm not going to go crazy on this, but a lot of this AI bubble stuff is really looking more at more how things are rolling on the consumer side. The enterprise side, they're already thinking about security, privacy, getting sued for stuff. I mean, that's why they're not as fast moving as some of the stuff like that's going on the OpenAI side. And that's but yeah, neither one of these two are given 100% success.
And I would
go ahead, Akira.
I was going to say quickly, I think Anthropic has been very clear about when they roll something out like Claude Code or Claude Skills, to Brent, to your point, they have a very clear messaging about what that is that I think resonates with the enterprises, particularly now since so many people are trying to figure out how to get an ROI and trying to figure out how something will fit in their operations or workflow. I think they've done a better job than OpenAI in terms of, you may not understand fully what Claude Code does, but there's a clear market. There's a clear mark between Claude Code versus Claude versus Claude Skills and so forth, and people are picking up on that quite a bit.
And Ramon, the best way to tell that nobody knows who's going to win, all these big companies are throwing this big money to both those companies.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're not saying, okay, we're just going with these guys. No, they don't know what the hell who's going to win.
But I wasn't sure. I guess, Brent, I was trying to ask, and I know over time, but I would just get your input or Shashi's, others who follow this, kind of the analyst side, is that let's say they went away tomorrow. You don't think, and I know there's Zoho and Gemini and Microsoft Copilot, I get it. But if they went away tomorrow, Claude, let's say, and OpenAI, that wouldn't be a couple weeks of cataclysmic,
it would be painful, but people are going to get over it.
Okay. No, you guys. Ramon, did you say bail them out? Did you use the phrase?
I was saying, are they too big to fail? My point was.
Yes, that phrase. Guys, we had bailouts. Where does the $36 trillion debt come? I'm worried about dollar devaluation. I'm worried about big economic things, right? The $36 trillion debt that we are carrying comes from too big to fail bailout in 2008, comes from money distribution during COVID. We got through those things because there was money thrown at the problem, right? And the money's thrown at the problem because we are the default currency. We have people selling their bonds. I am so worried that these things that are going on, there is going to be a quote unquote crash. AI is not going away. All these things are important. I'm not saying that. Something's going to happen because all the numbers are saying that something's going to happen.
Yeah, something's going to happen.
Bailout going to come from is what I'm thinking.
I don't know if we're going to get because let's face it, the bailout for the auto industry, it was the auto industry. It was thousands, tens of thousands of people that were actually already employed. There were companies that made their whole business model being a part of the ecosystem. So there's actual thousands upon thousands of people that will be, maybe even millions of people will be affected by that. Right now, this AI stuff is really just a small group of people that are doing this whole thing. I don't think it'll be nearly as bad as what might have happened if we didn't bail out the auto industry back then.
I think retirement account. I am so worried about dollar devaluation, and we were just spending time talking about college, right? And if it weren't for my college education, do I know anything about economics? But I know how to read economics. I know what things are connected. I have an MBA, and I'm like, I feel like, I'm not saying I'm a smart person, but like everything is connected, my friends.
Yeah.
And these decisions that, even though it's a small thing,
it's not going to be pleasant.
Do you remember the New York telephone commercial, Ivana? Do you remember the New York telephone commercial?
Which one?
I'll sing it for you.
Please.
We're all connected, New York telephone.
That wasn't very dulcet, though.
But that's the commercial. We're all connected, New York telephone. It's a short little.
We're all connected.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's like a mobile. So when you yank on the one thing, everything is going to shake. And our retirement accounts, all like 401ks, even I pulled money and put it into a money market, which is founded on what, my friends? The bond market, which is unhappy.
Smart.
Everything is
me out, even.
Everything is like unhappy and chaotic because AI is so disruptive. We don't know what will be disrupted and the scale of the disruption. So those are, anytime there's unknowns, that's not good for the market. Then we got a bunch of chaotic stuff going on with the administration. These two things are not good. On their own, they're not good. When you couple them, they're definitely not good. And that's where we are right now.
And back to the I'm on this college education thing. I think we have a lot of people who aren't thinking about the impacts that all of this can have.
Not at all.
Right?
They're thinking about how to get more views, how to get more attention, how to get more. That's what I know. I'm making it sound very trivial, but that what seems to be the focus. And we even have a president who's focused on ratings and views, and that more than some of the more important things he should be focused on. Sorry, I didn't mean to get political.
No, you're right.
That's not. I'm not saying anything. I don't think.
Bondi. Does anybody hear Pam Bondi?
The lies are being told. So there you go.
Think about what the system. You got to ask yourself. At least this is what we learned in college and grad school. You have to think about systems, and systems have oftentimes a very delayed reaction, right? So if you want to know, like we've been talking about, whether it's been college or some other things, we've been talking about it from a very, very teeny tiny geography, whatever you want to call it, space. What's actually, when I ask myself, what is the system? When was the last time? Remember, college used to be just for the rich people, where they could go and study whatever they want. And why did college get affordable? Because we as a country said we want to have smart people, and we had the GI Bill, and even that didn't go across our African American friends, didn't get that. Mm-hmm. So we made college accessible. As a result of that, we had the biggest middle class the world has ever seen. Why? Because we produced a bunch of smart people who created and innovated, right? But now, what is our system producing? Our kids in regular school aren't doing so well, and college is inaccessible. So ask yourself, what is a population supposed to do?
Yeah.
What are you being trained to do? Work for someone else? Sweep streets? Like what exactly? And then if we aren't studying history and literature, we already see what that's creating. A bunch of people who don't know, because they went to college to learn a trade. There are trade schools for that, like what Zoho's doing. You don't need a college degree to learn how to code. You want to code? Here, go code.
That's true.
I love that. Not everything, not even marketing doesn't require a college degree, but does it help to know psychology? Does it help to understand history and literature and what triggers us? Absolutely.
I'd say one other thing that college does provide, at least the opportunity for, is to be around folks who you didn't grow up with, to learn about different people and cultures. And I think the more that you are around people that are a little different from you, the more understanding you get from the differences, and you don't fear the differences, and you don't make people fear it so much they hate the differences. It's much more easy to do that if it's purely virtual and all that nonsense.
And if we cared about that, we would have the whole, I love that idea of graduating high school and doing a year of civil service, like doing some kind of service, whether you want to do, if military calls to you. My college roommate was into like parks and services like that, but nature. There's so much good that we can do and learn, but we don't care about. That's not, again, ask yourself, what is the system delivering?
Yeah.
All right, we better end it here, or we'll be talking throughout the whole weekend. This has been great. I say this all the time. I never know exactly what we're going to be talking about, but we always seem to end up with some really interesting conversations. So, if anybody has any last thoughts before we go, let them out. I guess that we just let out our last thoughts. All right.
Yes.
Hopefully, we'll see you guys next Friday.
Next Friday, and I will. Will you also be at Zoho?
I had to pull out of the NetSuite and Zoho because I'm still in the middle of getting my house back in order. So,
oh, sorry to hear that.
So no trips for me until probably April.
Oh, we're going to miss you then.
Oh, but you'll see me in a little less than a month because
yes, IRL 2026.
Absolutely. So we'll see you. I think we'll see a couple of you guys here. So anyway, hope you have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next Friday.